The bridge of the Valiant Dawn hummed with quiet activity as the massive warship glided through the darkness of space. Captain Daniel Green sat in his command chair, reviewing the diplomatic reports from their recent mission to the Centauri colonies. The meetings had gone well, and now they were heading back to Earth. The journey would take another 2 weeks at their current speed, but Green didn't mind. He enjoyed the peaceful moments between assignments. Lisa Martinez sat at her communication station, monitoring the various channels that crossed through this sector of space. She was young for her position, only 26 years old, but she had proven herself countless times during her 3 years aboard the Valiant Dawn. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease as she filtered through the usual background noise of space travel. Then something caught her attention. A signal, weak and breaking up, but definitely there. She increased the gain and filtered out the static. Her eyes widened as she recognized the frequency. It was the Universal Emergency Channel, the one used by all species in the Galactic Council for distress calls. "Captain, I'm picking up something," Lisa said, her voice cutting through the quiet conversations on the bridge. "It's a distress signal on the emergency frequency." Green straightened in his chair immediately. "Put it through." The speakers crackled to life, and a voice filled the bridge. It was high-pitched and trembling with fear, speaking in the trade language that most species used for communication. "This is the merchant vessel Peaceful Horizon. We are under attack, requesting immediate assistance. Multiple hostiles. They're killing us. Please, anyone, we need help." The message repeated, growing weaker each time. In the background, they could hear the sounds of weapons fire and screaming. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper moved to the tactical station, his hands already working the controls. "I'm tracking the source. It's coming from coordinates 738 by 421. Distance approximately 3 hours at maximum burn." "Who's sending it?" Green asked, already knowing he would respond regardless of the answer. "Checking the ship registry now," Cooper replied. His screen flickered as data appeared. "It's a Velaran vessel, sir. The Peaceful Horizon is registered as a merchant trader. They're hauling agricultural supplies and cultural artifacts." Green knew about the Velorans. Everyone did. They were one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy, philosophers and traders who hadn't fought a war in over 3,000 years. They believed in harmony and understanding, and they spread that philosophy wherever they traveled. The thought of someone attacking them made his blood run cold. "Lisa, send out a priority alert to all human vessels in the area," Green ordered. "Tell them we have a civilian ship under attack and we're responding. Any ship that can make it should join us." "Yes, sir," Lisa said, her fingers flying across her controls. "Ryan, plot a course, maximum speed. I want us there as fast as this ship can move." "Course laid in, sir." "All hands, battle stations," Green announced over the ship-wide communication system. "This is not a drill. We have civilians under attack, and we're going to help them." Throughout the Valiant Dawn, alarms began to sound. Crew members ran to their positions. Engineers prepared the weapon systems. Medical teams readied the sickbay for potential casualties. The ship that had been peacefully cruising through space suddenly transformed into a weapon of war. Jake Palmer, the sensors officer, studied his screens intently. "I'm trying to get more information about the attackers, sir. The signal is too weak, and we're too far away for detailed scans." "Keep trying," Green said. "I want to know what we're walking into." Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm getting responses from nearby ships. The Swift Justice is changing course to intercept. Commander Patricia Moore says she'll be there shortly after we arrive. The Ironclad is also responding, along with 2 frigate groups." Green nodded with satisfaction. When humans heard a distress call, they responded. It was something they had learned from their own bloody history. Too many times on Earth, people had ignored cries for help, and the results had been catastrophic. Humanity had made a promise when they reached the stars. Never again would they stand by while innocents suffered. "How long until we arrive?" Green asked. 2 hours and 47 minutes at current speed, Cooper replied. "Can we go faster?" Cooper glanced at his console. "We can push the engines harder, but we'll risk damage. We could cut maybe 10 minutes off that time." "Do it," Green ordered. "Every second counts." The ship shuddered slightly as the engines increased their output beyond normal operating parameters. Down in engineering, the crew monitored the systems carefully, making sure nothing burned out under the strain. Lisa's console beeped. "Captain, the distress signal just changed. They're sending new information." She listened for a moment, her face growing pale. "Sir, they say the attackers are Kragoth raiders. They're not just taking cargo. They're executing the crew one by one." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew about the Kragoth. They were pirates and slavers, species that found pleasure in causing pain. They operated from the lawless regions beyond council space, raiding merchant vessels and small colonies. They were brutal, efficient, and they showed no mercy. "How many raiders?" Green asked, his voice hard. "The Valorans report 3 ships," Lisa said, "all frigate class or larger." Ryan Cooper pulled up tactical data on the Kragoth. Their ships are older designs, but they're heavily armed. They rely on speed and overwhelming firepower. They usually don't expect resistance. "They're about to get a very unpleasant surprise," Green said quietly. The minutes ticked by slowly. The crew of the Valiant Dawn prepared for battle with grim determination. They checked weapons, ran system diagnostics, and mentally prepared themselves for what was coming. Many of them had seen combat before during the various conflicts that had marked humanity's expansion into space. They knew what war looked like, what it smelled like, what it cost. But this was different. This wasn't a conflict between nations or a dispute over resources. This was evil preying on innocence, and that was something humans understood on a deep, instinctive level. Throughout their history, they had been both victims and perpetrators of such evil. They had learned the hard way what happened when good people did nothing. Jake Palmer suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I'm getting new sensor data. We're close enough now to see what's happening." He paused, his face tight with anger. "Sir, the Valoran ship is venting atmosphere. They have multiple hull breaches. Life signs are dropping fast." "How many survivors?" Green asked. "Hard to tell at this range, but fewer than 20. "Sir, they started with over 40 crew members." Green's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. "Weapons status?" "All systems ready," Cooper reported. "Railguns charged, missiles loaded, point defense online. We're ready to fight, sir." "Good," Green said. "Because when we arrive, I don't want there to be any doubt about what happens to pirates who attack civilian ships. No warnings, no negotiations. We're going to show them what humanity does to those who prey on the weak." Lisa looked at her captain, seeing the cold determination in his eyes. She had served under Green for 3 years and had never seen him like this. He was usually calm, thoughtful, always looking for peaceful solutions. But something about this situation had awakened something primal in him. Something that she suspected lived in all humans just beneath the surface of civilization. The Valiant Dawn's railguns spoke first, their voice a thunder that crossed the silence of space. Magnetic coils accelerated tungsten projectiles to a fraction of light speed, and those projectiles crossed the distance to the nearest Kragoth ship in less than a second. The raiders had shields, energy barriers that could deflect most weapons used by Galactic Council species. Those shields had made them confident, arrogant even. They lasted exactly 0.3 seconds against human kinetic weapons. The tungsten rounds punched through the shields as if they weren't there, then continued through the hull of the Kragoth ship. Each impact released kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The raider vessel shuddered as explosions rippled across its surface. Atmosphere vented from a dozen breaches. The ship's reactor destabilized, and a moment later, the entire vessel came apart in a brilliant flash of light. Ryan Cooper didn't pause to watch the destruction. His hands moved across the tactical controls, already targeting the second Kragoth ship. "Missiles spread away," he announced calmly. 12 missiles launched from the Valiant Dawn's tubes, each one containing a payload designed by human weapons engineers who had spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction. The missiles spread out, their targeting systems tracking the Kragoth ship as it tried desperately to evade. The raiders fired their own weapons in response, energy beams that scored across the Valiant Dawn's shields. Lisa Martinez's console lit up with damage reports, but the shields held. Human shield technology, developed through decades of war and innovation, was designed to take punishment. The missiles reached their target, They didn't impact directly. Instead, they detonated in a carefully calculated pattern around the Kragoth ship. Each missile released hundreds of tungsten penetrator rods, turning the space around the raider into a cloud of hypersonic projectiles. The Kragoth ship's shields flickered and failed under the onslaught. The rods tore through armor plating like paper, shredding systems and structure. The second raider began to spin, control lost, fires visible through the tears in its hull. The third Kragoth vessel realized the situation had changed dramatically. Their two companions were destroyed or dying, and they had barely managed to scratch the human warship. The captain of that ship made a decision that might have saved his life under different circumstances. He ordered a retreat and turned his ship away from the battle. But he made one final, fatal mistake. As his ship turned, he fired one last volley at the peaceful horizon, perhaps out of spite or perhaps hoping to cover his escape with destruction. Captain Daniel Green saw those shots fire. He saw them streak toward the helpless Valoran ship, toward the survivors who had been calling for help, toward the innocent beings who had done nothing wrong except be in the wrong place at the wrong time. "Intercept those shots," Green ordered. The helmsman of the Valiant Dawn responded instantly, the massive warship moving with surprising grace. It positioned itself between the fleeing Kragoth vessel and the peaceful horizon. The enemy fire splashed against their shields, absorbed by the powerful defensive systems. "Sir, the Swift Justice just arrived," Lisa announced. "So did the Ironclad and the frigate groups." Green looked at the tactical display. 4 more human warships had dropped out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding the fleeing Kragoth ship. Patricia Moore's destroyer, the Swift Justice, was particularly well-positioned. The Ironclad, a massive carrier, loomed like a wall of metal and fury. "All ships target that raider," Green commanded over the fleet channel. "But I want it disabled, not destroyed. We're taking prisoners." The response was immediate and professional. The human ships opened fire with precise, calculated shots. They targeted the Kragoth vessel's engines first, then its weapons systems. The raider tried to fight back, but it was hopeless. 1 ship against 6, and those 6 were crewed by humans who were very, very angry. Within 2 minutes, the third Kragoth ship was dead in space, powerless and helpless. Its engines were slag, its weapons destroyed, but its crew compartment remained intact. "Ryan, get rescue teams to the peaceful horizon immediately," Green ordered. "Lisa, get me a channel to that Kragoth ship." "Channel open, sir," Lisa said a moment later. "Kragoth vessel, this is Captain Daniel Green of the human ship Valiant Dawn. Your ship is disabled and surrounded. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with the complete destruction of your vessel. You have 30 seconds to comply." There was silence for a moment. Then a harsh, growling voice came through the speakers. "You cannot threaten us, human. We are Kragoth. We do not surrender." Green's expression didn't change. 20 seconds. "We have hostages," the Kragoth captain snarled. "We took some of the Velerans before you arrived. If you attack us, we will kill them." Ryan Cooper looked at Green, waiting for orders. The captain was silent for a moment, thinking through the situation. Then he made his decision. "Ryan, prepare a boarding team. Full combat gear. Lisa, patch me through to all ships." When the channel opened, Green spoke clearly. "All vessels, maintain weapons lock on the Kragoth ship. If they harm any hostages, if they make any threatening moves, destroy them immediately." Then he switched back to the Kragoth ship. "You're going to listen very carefully. I know you think you have leverage because you have hostages. You think we'll negotiate, that we'll be afraid to act because innocent lives are at stake. You're wrong. If you harm those hostages, we will turn your ship into vapor. If you try to use them as shields, we will find a way to kill you anyway. Your only chance of survival is to release them unharmed and surrender. You have 10 seconds to decide." The Kragoth captain laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "You're bluffing, human. Your species is new to the galaxy. You don't have the stomach for hard choices." Green's voice went cold. 5 seconds. "You won't do it. You won't risk the hostages." 3 seconds. There was a pause, then frantic sounds in the background of the Kragoth transmission. Other voices arguing in their harsh language. The captain was being overruled by his crew. We surrender, a different voice said quickly. We are releasing the hostages now. Don't shoot. Wise choice, Green said. You will move all prisoners to your main airlock. You will seal yourselves in your crew quarters. Any Kragoth found outside that area will be shot on sight. My boarding team will arrive in 5 minutes. The channel closed. Ryan Cooper let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Sir, would you really have destroyed that ship with the hostages aboard? Green looked at his second in command. I don't know, Ryan. But they didn't know that either, and that's what mattered. Brandon Hughes, the medical officer, had already taken a team across to the peaceful horizon. His voice came over the communication system, tight with stress. Captain, we have 17 survivors. Most are in critical condition. The Kragoth were methodical in their violence. It's bad, sir. Do everything you can, Brandon, Green said. The Ironclad has better medical facilities. Transfer the worst cases there. Understood. The boarding team assembled quickly. 20 Marines in full combat armor, armed with weapons designed for close quarters fighting. They crossed to the Kragoth ship and found the hostages as promised. 3 Valorans who were terrified but alive. The Marines secured them first, then moved through the ship, checking every compartment. They found the Kragoth crew sealed in their quarters as ordered. There were 15 of them, all heavily armed, but none willing to fight after seeing what had happened to their companion ships. Jake Palmer was monitoring the peaceful Horizon's computer systems. Captain, I'm pulling their security footage. You need to see this. The video played on the main screen. It showed the Kragoth boarding the Valoran ship, showed them gathering the crew, showed what came next. The violence was calculated and cruel. The raiders had been enjoying themselves. Every person on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn watched in silence. When the video ended, Lisa Martinez had tears in her eyes. Ryan Cooper's jaw was clenched so tight it looked painful. Captain Green stood up from his chair. Ryan, prepare a message. Full spectrum broadcast to Kragoth space. I want every raider out there to see this. Sir, Cooper asked. Send them the footage of what their people did to the Valorans. Then send them the footage of what we did to their ships. And add this message. Any Kragoth vessel that The news traveled fast across the galaxy, moving through the faster-than-light communication networks that connected hundreds of worlds. Within hours, every major species knew what had happened at the peaceful horizon. The footage that Captain Green had ordered broadcast spread like wildfire, copied and shared across countless systems. On the Galactic Council Station, representatives from dozens of species gathered in emergency session. The council chamber was a massive structure, built to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. In the center, holographic displays showed the footage from the battle, playing over and over. Ambassador Chen, representing humanity, stood at the podium. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, someone who had spent 30 years in diplomatic service. She had seen many crises, weathered many storms of controversy, but this was different. The human vessels responded to a distress call, she said calmly. Her voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. They found a civilian merchant ship under attack by pirates. They engaged the attackers and rescued the survivors. This is exactly what any civilized species should do. A representative from the Thex Collective raised several of its appendages, a gesture requesting to speak. Ambassador Chen, no one disputes that the rescue was appropriate. What concerns us is the level of force used. The Kragoth ships were completely destroyed. 2 of them were, Chen corrected. The third was disabled and its crew taken prisoner. They will face trial for their crimes under galactic law. But the destruction was so complete, so overwhelming, another representative added. This one was from the Pelian Union, a species known for their cautious nature. Your ships arrived and within minutes the battle was over. The Kragoth are known as fierce warriors. How are they defeated so easily? Chen looked at the Pelian representative. Because my species has spent 10,000 years fighting wars. We've learned how to kill efficiently. We've learned how to build weapons that destroy completely. We've made an art form out of violence. She paused, letting that sink in. But we've also learned when to use that capability and when to show restraint. The Kragoth were executing civilians. They were torturing innocents. They received exactly the response such actions deserve. The chamber erupted in discussion, representatives arguing in dozens of languages. Some supported humanity's actions. Others worried about the implications of such military power being used so decisively. Finally, the council speaker, an ancient being from a species that had been exploring space for millennia, raised a manipulator for silence. The question before us is simple. Did humanity act appropriately? They saved lives, said the Velaran representative, an elder named Telonis. He was one of the survivors from the peaceful horizon, recovered enough to travel to the council. My people were dying. We called for help and the humans came. They didn't hesitate. They didn't calculate whether it was profitable or strategically wise. They heard civilians in danger and they responded. Is this not what all civilized beings should do? The Thex representative spoke again. But at what cost? The humans have introduced weapons technology far beyond what most of us use. These railguns, these kinetic weapons, they penetrate shields designed to stop energy weapons. If humanity decides to use this power for conquest rather than protection, who could stop them? Chen smiled slightly. You're asking the wrong question. You should ask, why haven't we already conquered you? Earth has been part of the galactic community for 97 years. In that time, we've built colonies, established trade routes, and defended our borders. But we've never started a war of aggression. We've never invaded another species' territory. We've never enslaved or subjugated anyone. She looked around the chamber. We learned those lessons on our own world, through blood and suffering. We know what evil looks like because we've been capable of it ourselves. And we've chosen to be better. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, a consensus emerged. Humanity's actions would be officially recorded as a legitimate response to piracy. No sanctions would be imposed, no restrictions placed on human military activities. The Council would, however, formally request that humanity provide protection for merchant vessels traveling through dangerous regions of space. Chen agreed, knowing that this was exactly what Earth wanted anyway. Far from the Council chambers, in the dark reaches of space where laws meant nothing, the pirate clans were holding their own meetings. The Kragoth were just one of many groups that preyed on civilian shipping. News of their destruction had reached all of them. In a hidden station built into a hollowed asteroid, leaders of various raider organizations gathered. They watched the footage of the battle, saw how quickly and completely the human ships had destroyed their targets. The Kragoth were fools, growled the leader of the Skarn raiders, a massive reptilian creature covered in scars. They attacked without knowing their enemy. The humans are dangerous, added another leader. Their weapons are primitive but effective. Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, but delivered with precision we haven't seen before. A third leader, representing a coalition of smaller pirate groups, leaned forward. So, we avoid human space. We stay away from their protected routes. And give up the richest trade lanes in this sector? The Skarn leader laughed. No, we learn from the Kragoth mistakes. We scout human vessels, learn their patterns, find their weaknesses. Then we strike when we have overwhelming advantage. Not everyone agreed with this assessment. Some of the pirate leaders decided that tangling with humanity was too dangerous, that easier prey existed elsewhere. They quietly withdrew from the meeting, planning to move their operations to regions far from human influence. But others, driven by pride or greed or simple arrogance, began planning their response. They would show the galaxy that humans were not invincible, that the Deathworlders could be beaten. On Earth, in the Defense Fleet headquarters, Admiral Victoria Lang reviewed the reports from the Peaceful Horizon incident. Her office overlooked the sprawling military complex, where ships were built and crews trained. She had spent 40 years in the service, rising through the ranks during the expansion years when humanity first reached for the stars. Her aide, a young officer named Kevin Barnes, stood beside her desk. Admiral, we're receiving requests from 17 different species asking for protection agreements. They want human ships patrolling their trade routes. Lang nodded slowly. We don't have enough ships to cover everything they're asking for. No, ma'am. But we could prioritize. Focus on the routes where pirate activity is highest. Do it, and start recruiting. We're going to need more crews, more ships. She looked at Barnes. We're becoming something we never intended to be. What's that, ma'am? The galaxy's police force. The ones everyone calls when there's trouble. She smiled slightly. I suppose there are worse roles to play. Barnes hesitated, then asked, do you think we can handle it? The responsibility? Lang thought about that for a long moment. Kevin, let me tell you something I learned a long time ago. Power doesn't corrupt everyone. Some people, some civilizations, can handle power responsibly. Humanity has made terrible mistakes in our history. We've done evil things, started wars, committed atrocities, but we've also learned from those mistakes. We've built societies based on justice and law. We've created systems to limit power and protect the weak. She gestured at the reports on her desk. These species are asking for our help because they see that we're willing to use our strength to protect others, not exploit them. That's a rare thing in the galaxy, apparently. Yes, ma'am. Make sure every captain in the fleet understands this. We respond to distress calls, always. We protect civilians, always. We use overwhelming force against pirates and slavers, always. But we never, ever use our power to bully the weak or take what isn't ours. The moment we start doing that, we become the very thing we're fighting against. Back on the Valiant Dawn, Captain Daniel Green walked through the ship, checking on his crew. They had been through a hard fight, and he wanted to make sure everyone was handling it well. He found Lisa Martinez in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. You okay? He asked, sitting down beside her. She nodded. I keep thinking about those Velerans, what they went through before we arrived. The ones who didn't make it. I know. We got there as fast as we could, but it wasn't fast enough to save them all. Green was quiet for a moment. Lisa, let me tell you something my first captain told me. You can't save everyone. Sometimes, no matter how fast you move, no matter how hard you try, people die. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. Those 17 Valorans we saved, they're alive because we responded. Because we pushed our engines past safety limits and charged into battle. That matters. Does it get easier? She asked. Seeing the aftermath of violence like that? No, Green said honestly. It never gets easier. The day it does is the day you should leave this job because it means you've stopped caring. But you learn to carry it, to use it as fuel to keep going, to make sure you're there the next time someone needs help. Lisa looked at her captain. The other species are afraid of us. They think we're too violent, too dangerous. They're not entirely wrong, Green admitted. We are dangerous, but being dangerous isn't the same as being evil. A doctor carries a scalpel that could kill, but uses it to heal. We carry weapons that could destroy, but we use them to protect. That's the difference. Throughout the ship, similar conversations were happening. Crew members processing what they had seen, what they had done. Some struggled with the violence, even though it had been necessary. Others felt satisfaction at having stopped the raiders, at having saved innocent lives. Ryan Cooper found Jake Palmer in the sensor room, reviewing the data from the battle. You did good work today, Cooper said. 3 months had passed since the Peaceful Horizon incident, and the galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Human ships now patrolled dozens of trade routes, their presence marked by distinctive energy signatures that any ship with sensors could detect. The pirates and raiders who had once terrorized these lanes had largely disappeared, moving to regions far from human protection. But not everyone had gotten the message. Captain Daniel Green stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, watching as his crew carried out a routine patrol. They were in the Helios sector now, a region of space known for rich mineral deposits and frequent merchant traffic. It was also a place where pirate attacks had been common before humanity's intervention. Captain, we're receiving another request for escort, Lisa Martinez announced from her communication station. Civilian transport carrying colonists to New Terra. They're asking if we can accompany them through the Narrows. The Narrows was a region of dense asteroid fields that provided perfect ambush spots for raiders. It was also the fastest route to several colony worlds, which made it popular with merchants despite the danger. Confirm that we'll meet them at the entrance to the Narrows, Green said. What's our schedule look like, Ryan? Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper checked his display. We have time, sir. The diplomatic convoy we're supposed to meet isn't due for another 6 hours. Good. Plot a course. These escort missions had become routine over the past months. At first, the requests had been occasional, But now they came in daily. Civilian ships that once hired private security or traveled in convoys now simply requested human protection. It was more reliable and, surprisingly, free. Earth had decided that protecting civilian traffic was a public service, part of humanity's contribution to galactic civilization. Jake Palmer spoke up from sensors. "Sir, I'm picking up something odd. There's a debris field about 2 light minutes from our position. It looks recent." Green's attention sharpened. "Recent how?" "The metal is still warm, sir. Whatever happened there, it happened in the last hour." "Battle debris?" "Checking now." Palmer worked his controls, running the sensor data through analysis programs. "Yes, sir. I'm reading hull fragments consistent with civilian ship construction. Also detecting traces of weapons fire." "Any life signs?" "Negative, sir. If there were survivors, they're not there anymore." Green exchanged a glance with Cooper. "Pirates?" "Most likely. They hit a ship, took what they wanted, left the wreckage." "Can we identify the vessel?" Green asked Palmer. "Working on it, sir. The debris pattern suggests a medium-sized freighter. Give me a few minutes and I can probably pull a registry number from one of the larger fragments." Green settled back in his chair, thinking. The pirates had been quiet lately, too quiet. He had suspected they were regrouping, planning something. This might be the first sign of a new strategy. "Got it," Palmer said. The ship was the Morning Star, registered to the Pelian Union. Cargo manifest shows they were hauling industrial equipment to a mining colony. Lisa's fingers flew across her controls. "Sir, the Morning Star filed a flight plan 3 days ago. They were supposed to arrive at the colony yesterday. When they didn't show up, the colony reported them missing." "So, no one heard a distress call?" "No, sir. Either they were jammed, or it happened too fast for them to send one." Green frowned. Pirates who could take down a ship that quickly were either very skilled or had overwhelming force. Neither option was good. "Lisa, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them what we found. Include all sensor data. Then put out an alert to all civilian ships in this sector. Tell them to travel in groups and maintain constant communication with the nearest military vessel." "Yes, sir." Over the next week, 3 more ships went missing in the sector. Each time, human patrols found only debris. No survivors, no witnesses, no distress calls. The pirates, whoever they were, had learned from the Kragoth mistakes. They were striking fast and fleeing before help could arrive. On Earth, Admiral Lang convened a meeting of her senior officers. The conference room was filled with captains and commanders from across the fleet, their faces appearing on holographic displays from ships scattered throughout human space. "We have a problem," Lang began without preamble. "Pirates are adapting to our presence. They're hitting ships quickly and disappearing before we can respond. 4 ships lost in the Helios sector alone, with more attacks reported in other regions." Captain Green attended via remote link from the Valiant Dawn. "Admiral, we've analyzed the attack patterns. The raiders are using scouts to identify targets that are isolated or vulnerable. They hit fast, take the cargo and any valuable crew members, then jump out before we can arrive." "Suggestions?" Lang asked. Patricia Moore, commander of the Swift Justice, spoke up. "We could increase our patrol density, put more ships in vulnerable areas." "We don't have enough ships for that," Lang replied. "We're already stretched thin covering the routes we've committed to protecting." "What about setting a trap?" This came from Kenneth Davis of the Ironclad. "Use a civilian ship as bait. Let the pirates attack, then spring the ambush." Lang considered this. "It's risky. If something goes wrong, we'd be sacrificing lives to catch pirates." "With respect, Admiral, we're already losing lives," Green said. 4 ships gone, crews dead or enslaved. If we don't change our tactics, that number will keep growing." The discussion continued for another hour, various plans proposed and debated. Finally, they settled on a strategy. They would use a Q ship, a warship disguised as a civilian freighter, to lure out the pirates. The ship would be crewed by volunteers and accompanied by warships positioned just outside sensor range, ready to respond the moment an attack began. 2 weeks later, the trap was set. The decoy ship, registered under the name Silverwind, began traveling through the Helios sector. Its cargo hold was filled with valuable electronics, the kind of high-value goods that pirates love to steal. Its crew consisted entirely of human military personnel, trained for combat but playing the role of civilian merchants. Captain Green watched from the Valiant Dawn, positioned 3 light minutes away, hidden behind an asteroid field. With him were the Swift Justice and 2 frigates. They waited in silence, their ship's emissions reduced to minimum levels to avoid detection. "How long has it been?" Green asked quietly. 6 hours since the Silver Wind entered the sector, Cooper replied. "If the pirates are watching, they should make their move soon. Assuming they take the bait. They will. The cargo is too valuable to pass up, and the ship appears to be traveling alone." They waited. Hours passed. The crew of the Valiant Dawn remained alert but relaxed, experienced enough to know that military operations involved a lot of waiting punctuated by brief moments of action. Then, Lisa's console beeped urgently. "Contact. The Silver Wind reports 3 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Configuration matches known pirate vessels." "Here we go," Green muttered. "All ships prepare to move, but hold position until I give the word. Let's see what they do." On the Silver Wind, the crew went into their rehearsed routine. They sent out a distress call, intentionally weak and quickly cut off, as if the pirates had jammed their communications. They tried to maneuver away, but sluggishly, like a real civilian freighter would. The pirate ships closed in, confident and aggressive. They fired warning shots, then began moving to board the Silver Wind. "Now," Green ordered. 4 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel simultaneously, surrounding the pirates. The raiders realized too late that they had made a terrible mistake. "This is Captain Daniel Green of the human fleet. You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with deadly force." For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the pirate ships tried to run, its engines flaring as it attempted to reach faster-than-light velocity. Ryan Cooper's fingers moved across his controls, targeting their engines. Fire. The railgun shot was perfect, hitting the pirate ship's engine section precisely. The raider vessel went dead in space, unable to move or jump. The other 2 pirate ships surrendered immediately, their crews no doubt having heard what happened to the Kragoth. The boarding teams found evidence of multiple attacks. Cargo stolen from the ships that had gone missing, crew manifest from the Morning Star, even personal belongings taken from murdered merchants. The pirates had been working this sector for months, growing bolder with each successful raid. During the interrogations, Green learned something interesting. The pirates weren't independent operators. They were part of a larger organization, a coalition of raider groups that had formed specifically to challenge human dominance of the trade routes. "How many ships in this coalition?" Green asked the pirate captain, a scarred alien from a species he didn't recognize. The pirate sneered. "More than you can handle, human. You think you're the apex predators in this galaxy? You're just new meat that doesn't know its place yet." Green looked at the pirate for a long moment. "You attacked civilian ships. You murdered innocent people. You enslaved those you didn't kill. And you did it thinking that we wouldn't find you? That we wouldn't respond?" "We knew you would respond." The pirate station hung in space like a wounded beast, suddenly aware that it had become prey. Admiral Victoria Lang stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Endeavour, watching as her tactical display filled with contacts. 23 pirate vessels were scrambling from the station's docking bays, their crews rushing to battle stations in response to the human fleet's arrival. Lang had brought 20 warships, each one crewed by veterans who had trained for exactly this kind of operation. The Valiant Dawn was there, along with the Swift Justice, the Ironclad, and 17 other vessels ranging from frigates to heavy cruisers. It was the largest battle fleet humanity had assembled since the border conflicts 15 years ago. "Admiral, we're being hailed," the communications officer reported. "The station commander wants to negotiate." Lang smiled coldly. "Put him through." A figure appeared on the main screen, a massive alien with multiple arms and cybernetic enhancements covering half its body. This was Krathok, the leader of the pirate coalition, a being whose reputation for brutality was known across a dozen sectors. "Human Admiral." Krathok's voice was surprisingly smooth, despite his fearsome appearance. You've made a mistake coming here. This station is neutral territory outside Council jurisdiction. You have no authority to attack us. You're right that this is outside Council space, Lang replied calmly. Which means Council law doesn't protect you. You've been raiding civilian ships under human protection. You've murdered merchants, enslaved innocents, and stolen goods worth millions. I'm here to put an end to it. Krathok laughed. With 20 ships, I have twice that number, and this station is heavily armed. You'll die here, and your death will show the galaxy that humans are not as powerful as they pretend to be. Last chance, Lang said. Surrender now. Release any prisoners you're holding and you'll live to stand trial. Refuse, and we'll take you by force. Come and try, human. The channel closed. Lang took a deep breath, then gave the order she had been preparing to give since they arrived. All ships, weapons free. Destroy any vessel that shows hostile intent. Disable the station's weapon systems, but avoid hitting the crew areas. We want prisoners, not corpses. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire. The pirate ships opened up first, their weapon systems cobbled together from military surplus and black market technology. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. The human ships responded with devastating efficiency. Their point defense systems intercepted most of the incoming fire, while their own weapons found targets with brutal accuracy. The first pirate ship to be destroyed had barely finished firing its opening volley when railgun rounds tore through its hull. Captain Green commanded a squadron of 5 ships, including the Valiant Dawn. His group focused on the pirate vessels trying to form a defensive line around the station. Ryan Cooper worked his tactical controls with practiced ease, designating targets and coordinating fire with the other ships in their group. Contact bearing 273, designation Hostile 7, Cooper called out. Frigate class, launching missiles. Intercept those missiles, Green ordered. Then return fire on that frigate. Lisa Martinez's hands flew across her controls, managing defensive systems and communications simultaneously. Point defense engaged, missiles neutralized. Frigates Echo and Nova are moving to flank. The pirate frigate tried to evade, but it was too slow. 3 human ships caught it in a crossfire, their weapons overwhelming its shields in seconds. The frigate's crew ejected in escape pods before their ship exploded, a smart decision that saved their lives. Not all the pirates were so wise. Several ships fought to the death, their crews either too proud or too afraid of what surrender might mean. The human fleet granted them that choice, destroying each vessel that refused to stand down. Patricia Moore's Swift Justice dueled with a pirate battlecruiser, a ship twice her size with weapons that could have overwhelmed a less skilled opponent. But Moore had been fighting battles since she joined the military 20 years ago. She used the Swift Justice's superior speed to stay out of the battlecruiser's main firing arc while hammering it with precision strikes. Target their shield generators, Moore commanded. Let's open them up for the heavy hitters. Her crew executed perfectly, knocking out the battlecruiser's shield emitters one by one. Once the shields fell, the ironclad moved in, its massive railguns firing salvos that punched holes clear through the pirate ship's hull. The battlecruiser's captain finally saw sense and surrendered, his ship crippled, but his crew alive. On the pirate station, Krathok watched his fleet being systematically destroyed. He had expected the humans to be competent, even dangerous, but this level of coordination and firepower was beyond anything he had anticipated. His 23 ships were being defeated by a force barely larger than his own. How is this possible? He growled at his tactical officer. Their weapons shouldn't be this effective. They're using kinetic projectiles, sir. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. The humans are punching straight through them. Krathok's cybernetic eye focused on the display showing the Endeavor, Admiral Lang's flagship. If he could take out the human commander, perhaps the rest would lose coordination, become vulnerable. Focus all station weapons on that ship, he ordered. I want it destroyed. The station's defensive batteries, massive weapons built into the asteroid structure, all turned toward the Endeavor. They fired simultaneously, a concentration of energy that would have vaporized any civilian vessel. But the Endeavor was not a civilian vessel. Its shields flared bright as they absorbed the massive barrage. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as power systems strained under the load. Admiral Lang never flinched. "Return fire, target those batteries." The Endeavor's main guns spoke, and this time there was no mercy, no attempt to disable rather than destroy. The station's weapons batteries exploded one by one, torn apart by railgun fire and plasma torpedoes. Jake Palmer, serving on the Valiant Dawn, detected something on his sensors. "Captain, I'm picking up life signs in the lower levels of the station. Lots of them. They're too weak to be the pirate crew." Green understood immediately. Prisoners. The pirates have been taking slaves. "Lisa, get me a channel to Admiral Lang." When the connection opened, Green reported what they had found. Lang's expression hardened. "All ships, focus on the pirate vessels. Leave the station intact. We need to rescue those prisoners." The tide of the battle had already turned. More than half the pirate ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were trying to flee, but human frigates had positioned themselves to cut off escape routes. One by one, the remaining raiders surrendered or died. Krathok watched his empire crumbling around him. He had spent 10 years building this operation, gathering ships and crews from across the galaxy. Now it was ending in less than an hour, destroyed by a species that had barely been in space for a century. He made a decision born of desperation and spite. If he was going down, he would take as many humans with him as possible. He activated the station's self-destruct sequence, a system designed to turn the entire asteroid into a massive bomb. "Station is showing power spikes," Palmer reported urgently. "Sir, I think they're going to self-destruct." "Time until detonation?" Green asked. "If I'm reading this right, about 10 minutes. Green immediately opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, the station is rigged to explode. We need to evacuate those prisoners now." Admiral Lang responded instantly. "Marine units, board that station. Find the prisoners and get them out. You have 8 minutes." What followed was one of the most desperate rescue operations in human military history. Marines from 5 different ships launched toward the station in boarding craft, racing against time. They cut through airlocks, fought past automated defenses, and navigated the station's maze-like corridors, searching for the prisoner-holding areas. Lieutenant Brandon Hughes led one of the rescue teams from the Valiant Dawn. He had trained as a combat medic, and those skills were needed now. The prisoners they found were in terrible condition, malnourished and injured from their captivity. "Move, move, move," Hughes shouted to his team. "Get them to the shuttles. We don't have time to be gentle." They found prisoners from a dozen different species, beings who had been taken from raided ships over months of pirate operations. Some could walk with assistance, others had to be carried. The Marines worked with frantic efficiency, knowing that every second counted. Meanwhile, on the station's command center, a team led by Ryan Cooper had fought their way to Krathok's location. The pirate leader stood surrounded by his remaining guards, a defiant sneer on his face. "Too late, human. In 3 minutes, this station becomes a cloud of debris and your precious prisoners die with it." Cooper looked at the countdown display, then at Krathok. "Where's the deactivation control?" "There isn't one. Once started, the sequence can't be stopped." Cooper raised his weapon and shot one of Krathok's guards, the precise shot dropping the alien instantly. "I'll ask one more time. Where's the control?" Krathok's confidence wavered as he realized the human wasn't bluffing. "Behind me, the red terminal. But I'm telling you, it can't be stopped." Cooper motioned to one of his team members, a technical specialist named Sophie Grant. She rushed to the terminal and began working frantically. "He's not lying, Commander. The system is locked. I can't access it. Can you slow it down?" "Maybe, if I can reroute power from the detonation system." Her fingers flew across the controls. "I need 2 more minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes. Then we're all dead, sir." Cooper made a decision. "All teams, evacuate now. Get those prisoners out. Grant, you have 90 seconds, then we're leaving with or without that shutdown." Throughout the station, Marines grabbed the last of the prisoners and ran for the docking bays. Shuttles launched one after another, overloaded with rescued captives. The countdown continued its inexorable march towards zero. Sophie Grant worked with absolute focus, blocking out everything except the terminal in front of her. She found a back door in the system, a maintenance access that the station's designers had included. With 30 seconds left, she routed the detonation command through 17 different subsystems, forcing each one to verify the order. The countdown stopped with 11 seconds remaining. "I did it," Grant said, her voice shaking. "The self-destruct is disabled." Cooper let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. All to 6 months after the battle at Krathok Station, the galaxy had entered a new era. The destruction of the pirate coalition sent shockwaves through every criminal organization that operated in civilized space. Some disbanded entirely, their leaders deciding that retirement was preferable to facing human warships. Others moved their operations to the far edges of known space, as far from human patrol routes as possible. But the most significant change was in how civilian ships traveled. Where once merchants hired expensive security or traveled in heavily armed convoys, now they simply requested human escorts. The phrase, "under human protection," became a standard notation on shipping manifests, and pirates learned to avoid any vessel displaying that designation. Captain Daniel Green stood in the observation lounge of the Valiant Dawn, looking out at a convoy of 12 merchant ships his vessel was escorting. They came from 6 different species, carrying goods ranging from medical supplies to luxury items. All of them traveled confidently through space that had been too dangerous to traverse alone just a year ago. Lisa Martinez entered the lounge carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Green and stood beside him, watching the convoy. "Hard to believe how much has changed, isn't it, sir?" Green took the coffee gratefully. "Sometimes I think about that first distress call from the peaceful horizon, how it started all of this." "Do you regret it?" Lisa asked. "Responding the way we did?" "No. Those Velerans needed help and we gave it to them. Everything that followed was a consequence of doing the right thing." He paused. "But I wonder sometimes if we understood what we were signing up for. We've become the guardians of half the galaxy, whether we intended to or not. The crew doesn't seem to mind. If anything, morale has never been higher." Green nodded. That was true. The men and women under his command believed in their mission, believed that protecting civilians from pirates and raiders was work worth doing. They had seen the gratitude of the beings they rescued, heard the stories of what life was like before human protection became available. Ryan Cooper's voice came over the communication system. "Captain to the bridge. We're receiving a transmission from Earth." Green and Lisa made their way to the bridge, where Cooper had already pulled up the message. It was from Admiral Lang, and her expression was serious. "All fleet captains, this is a priority message. We've received intelligence from Galactic Council sources about a new threat. A species called the Zathran has been expanding aggressively into Council space. They've already conquered 3 minor civilizations and show no signs of stopping. The Council has formally requested human military assistance." Green exchanged glances with his officers. This was different from fighting pirates. This was a war against an organized military force. Lang continued. "The Zathran believe that might makes right. That stronger species have the natural right to dominate weaker ones. They've studied our interventions against pirates and have concluded that humanity is soft, that we waste our strength protecting those who can't defend themselves. They intend to test that assumption." The message ended with orders. The Valiant Dawn and a dozen other ships were to proceed to the border of Zathran space, where they would join a larger fleet assembling to oppose the invasion. Jake Palmer pulled up data on the Zathran. "Sir, they have a significant military, at least 200 capital ships, maybe more. They've been building up their forces for decades." "How many ships will we have?" Green asked. "Intelligence estimates we'll have about 80 human vessels, plus whatever the Council species can contribute." Those were not encouraging numbers. The human fleet would be outnumbered more than 2 to 1, even with Council support. But Green had learned something over the past months. Superior numbers didn't always determine the outcome of battles. Training, tactics, and technology mattered just as much, sometimes more. The Valiant Dawn joined the assembling fleet at a staging area near the border. Captain Green found himself in a virtual conference with dozens of other human captains, along with representatives from the Council species that were contributing forces. Admiral Lang addressed the group. "The Zathran have given the Council an ultimatum. Surrender the disputed territories or face invasion. The Council has refused, which means war is coming. Our job is to make sure the Zathran regret starting it. A Velaran representative, the elderly Telonis, who had survived the peaceful Horizon incident, spoke up. Admiral Lang, my people are grateful for humanity's protection these past months. But the Zathran are not pirates. They are a military power with resources and numbers. Are you certain your fleet can prevail? Lang smiled slightly. Telonis, let me tell you something about humans. We've been fighting wars for our entire existence as a species. We've developed strategies and tactics through countless conflicts. We've learned how to win even when outnumbered, how to turn enemy strengths into weaknesses. The Zathran think they understand warfare. They're about to learn that there's a difference between conquest and combat. Over the next week, the human fleet prepared for battle. They ran simulations, coordinated tactics, and studied everything known about Zathran military doctrine. The enemy preferred overwhelming force applied directly, using their superior numbers to crush opposition through sheer firepower. The human plan was different. They would use mobility and precision, hitting the Zathran where they were weakest and avoiding direct confrontations where numbers mattered most. The war began when a Zathran fleet of 50 ships crossed into Council space, moving to seize a colony world called Haven's Rest. The planet was home to 2 million civilians from multiple species, all of whom would face subjugation if the Zathran succeeded. Admiral Lang positioned her fleet between the invaders and the planet. 80 human warships against 50 Zathran vessels. On paper, the humans had numerical advantage, but the Zathran ships were larger, more heavily armed, and their crews were veteran warriors who had conquered multiple worlds. The Zathran commander broadcast a message to the human fleet. You are the species that fights for the weak. You waste your strength on those who contribute nothing. We will show you the price of such foolishness. Surrender now, or we will destroy you and take the planet anyway. Lang's response was simple. Come and try. The Zathran fleet advanced in a standard battle formation, a wall of ships moving forward with overlapping fields of fire. It was a tactic that had worked for them many times before, using their superior firepower to overwhelm defenders. But the human fleet didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered, breaking into small groups that moved with unexpected speed and agility. The Zathran formation, designed to maximize firepower, suddenly found itself shooting at targets that refused to stay still. Captain Green led a squadron of 8 ships in a flanking maneuver, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around behind the Zathran formation. His group emerged from the maneuver at high speed, directly behind a cluster of enemy ships. Fire as you bear, Green ordered. The human ships unleashed everything they had: railguns, missiles, plasma torpedoes, all targeted at the Zathran ship's engine sections. The enemy vessels, designed for forward combat, had weaker armor on their rear sections. The human weapons tore through those weak points with devastating effect. 3 Zathran ships lost power in the first salvo. 2 more were crippled seconds later when follow-up shots destroyed their main reactors. The Zathran commander tried to turn his formation to face this new threat, but that left his ships vulnerable to attack from other angles. Patricia Moore's squadron hit them from the side, while Kenneth Davis brought the Ironclad and a group of heavy cruisers in from above. The battle became a swirling chaos of ships and weapons fire. The Zathran had superior firepower, but the humans had superior mobility and tactics. Every time the enemy tried to form a stable firing line, human ships would attack from an unexpected angle, forcing them to reposition. Brandon Hughes, commanding the medical frigate Mercy, watched the battle from a safe distance, ready to retrieve survivors and treat casualties. He had seen combat before, but nothing like this. The human ships were dancing through the Zathran formation like wolves harrying a herd of buffalo, never giving the enemy a chance to use their strength. After 2 hours of intense fighting, the Zathran commander recognized that his invasion was failing. He had lost 19 ships, with another dozen badly damaged. The human fleet had taken casualties too, 7 ships destroyed and 15 damaged, but they were still fighting with undiminished ferocity. The Zathran fleet retreated, withdrawing from Council space with the human fleet pursuing them to the border. Admiral Lang let them go, choosing not to follow into Zathran territory. The message had been sent. Human protection meant something. Any species that attacked those under humanity's care would face the consequences. In the aftermath of the battle, the Galactic Council convened to discuss what had happened. The Zathran, humiliated by their defeat, withdrew their ultimatum and agreed to peace negotiations. Other aggressive species, watching what had happened, reconsidered their own expansion plans. Captain Green received a commendation for his tactical brilliance during the battle. But as he stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, watching the rescued colony world recede into the distance, he didn't feel victorious. He felt tired, aware of the weight of responsibility humanity had accepted. Ryan Cooper joined him. The Council is calling it the Battle of Haven's Rest. They're saying it marks a turning point in galactic history. Maybe it does, Green said. We've proven that humans can fight and win against organized military forces, not just pirates. That's going to change how other species see us. Is that a good thing? Green considered the question. I don't know. Power brings responsibility, and we've taken on a lot of responsibility lately. The question is whether we can handle it without becoming the very thing we're fighting against. You think we might? History shows that every powerful civilization eventually faces that temptation. The strong always want to dominate the weak. It's a pattern that repeats across species and cultures. Green looked at his second in command. But maybe humans can be different. Maybe we've learned enough from our own mistakes to avoid that trap. Lisa Martinez called out from communications. Captain, we're receiving another distress call. Merchant vessel under attack in the Perseus sector. Green felt a moment of weariness, then pushed it aside. This was the work they had chosen, the responsibility they had accepted. Plot a course, maximum speed. As the Valiant Dawn turned toward the new crisis, Green reflected on everything that had happened since that first distress call from the peaceful horizon. Humanity had become the guardians of the galaxy, the species others called when trouble came. It was a role they had never sought but had embraced fully. Throughout human space, similar scenes were playing out. Ships responding to distress calls, convoys being protected, pirates being hunted down. The defense fleet had grown to 300 vessels, with more being built every month. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to meet the demand. And on countless worlds, in stations and colonies across dozens of species, beings looked to the stars with new confidence. They knew that if danger came, if raiders or invaders threatened their homes, they could call for help. They could call the humans. Admiral Lang sat in her office on Earth, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The workload was enormous. The challenges seemed endless, but she felt satisfaction in what they had accomplished. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community, not as conquerors or merchants, but as protectors. Her aide, Kevin Barnes, entered with yet another stack of requests for protection, escort missions, and responses to threats. Lang looked at them and smiled. You know what, Kevin? I'm proud of what we've become. Not because we're the strongest military in the galaxy, though we might be. Not because we have the best weapons or the biggest ships, but because when someone cries out for help, we answer. Because we've chosen to use our strength to protect rather than exploit. Barnes nodded. Yes, ma'am. The crews understand that. They believe in this mission. Good. Because this is going to be our legacy. Centuries from now, when people tell stories about humanity's first century in space, this is what they'll remember. Not that we were from a death world, not that we were dangerous or violent, but that we came when called, that we stood between the innocent and those who would harm them. That's what it means to be human. Across the stars, the Valiant Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the distressed merchant vessel. Captain Green assessed the situation quickly. Pirates again, 3 ships harassing a lone freighter. Same as always, he said to his crew. Let's send them running. Show them what happens when they mess with ships under our protection. The human warship surged forward, weapons coming online, and the pirates saw it and fled immediately. They had learned their lesson. When humans arrived, the fight was already over. The merchant ship sent a grateful message, thanking the Valiant Dawn for the rescue. Green acknowledged it simply, then ordered his ship back to patrol routes. There would be more calls, more crises, more battles to fight. But that was fine. This was what humanity did now. This was who they had chosen to be. Guardians of the stars, defenders of the innocent, protectors of the weak. And when the darkness came, when evil showed itself, humans would be there with fire and fury, ready to remind the galaxy that some lines should never be crossed. AMS. Station is secure. Nice work, Grant. The battle was over. 23 pirate ships destroyed or captured. The station taken intact. And most importantly, 347 prisoners rescued from slavery. Admiral Lang addressed the fleet over an open channel. Well done, everyone. Today we've sent a message that will echo across the galaxy. Piracy will not be tolerated. Slavery will not be ignored. And those who prey on the innocent will face the full might of humanity's wrath. She looked at Krathok, who sat in the Endeavor's brig, his empire destroyed. You wanted to prove that humans weren't the apex predators we claimed to be. I hope you're satisfied with the answer you got, he pirate said. We just didn't care. You can't be everywhere. You can't protect everyone. Eventually, you'll spread yourselves too thin, and then we'll hit you where it hurts. After the interrogation, Green called a meeting with his senior officers. They're right about one thing. We can't be everywhere, but we can make an example that everyone in the galaxy will see. What do you have in mind, sir? Cooper asked. We don't just want to stop these pirates. We want to end piracy in this region entirely. That means finding their base, destroying their fleet, and making sure everyone knows what happens when you prey on civilians under human protection. Over the next week, intelligence gathered from the captured pirates led the human fleet to a hidden station in an uncharted system. It was a massive structure built into a large asteroid, home to dozens of pirate ships and thousands of raiders. Admiral Lang herself took command of the operation, bringing a fleet of 20 warships. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, their appearance causing immediate panic among the pirates. Palmer looked up. I just did my job. Your job saved lives. That targeting data you provided, it let us hit the raiders without risking the Valoran ship. That matters. Palmer nodded slowly. Commander, do you think this is going to keep happening? More distress calls? More battles? Probably, Cooper said. Word is spreading that humans respond to calls for help. That's going to encourage civilians to travel through dangerous areas, knowing we're there as backup. And it's going to draw out the predators who want to test us. Are we ready for that? Cooper smiled. Jake, humanity has been fighting wars since we learned to pick up sticks and rocks. We've had centuries to perfect the art of combat. Yes, we're ready. The question is whether the pirates are ready for us. Axe civilian ships will face the same fate. Humanity is now protecting these trade routes. Prey on the innocent at your own risk. Cooper nodded and began preparing the transmission. Patricia Moore's face appeared on the communication screen. Captain Green, orders? Take your ships and escort the peaceful horizon to the nearest station. Make sure those survivors get the best medical care available. And the prisoners? Green's expression was hard. They'll stand trial for their crimes. Let galactic law handle them, but make sure everyone knows what happened here. Make sure every civilian ship that travels these routes knows that if they call for help, humanity will answer. 30 seconds to target, Cooper announced. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Every person was focused, ready for what came next. Dropping out of faster than light in 3, 2, 1, the helmsman called out. The stars shifted suddenly as the Valiant Dawn returned to normal space. Ahead of them, they could see the peaceful horizon, a graceful ship designed for commerce and peace, now torn and bleeding in the darkness. Circling it like sharks were 3 Kragoth vessels, their weapons still firing into the helpless merchant ship. All weapons, Captain Daniel Green said, his voice cold and clear. Fire at will.